Okay. Okay. Hello, everybody. Yes. Well, the aim of this paper is to assess whether current market definition tools are able to capture competitive constraints of the digital market. Because we all have witnessed the digital disruptions. Internet has changed our way of life. Today, we do grocery shopping from our couch. We order Chinese to a kangaroo biking, and we don't even need to go out to have a date. We just need to swipe right. So I think we really changed our way of life. But this has also caused a proliferation of business models, and the question is whether current tools are valid to assess new anti-competitive behaviors that these new business models may cause. But the theoretical discussion about on the market definition is not new. However, is the digital market the one that is awakening now? Since Continental Kant, I don't know if you remember this case, we assume that we need market definition. Market definition has become the foundation stone on which a competition case is built. But nobody questions now whether we need market definition, whether it can be complemented by other tools, and not even whether it can get to jeopardize innovation, which is a competitive dimension. But what is market definition? Market definition provides a framework in which we can assess market forces of the market. Is the previous step where we can assess market power, because an undertaking cannot have market power in a vacuum. It only makes sense if market power is expressed in relevant terms in the relevant market. We have to go to paragraph 2 of the Commission's notice on definition of the relevant market to see how important it is to our system the concept of market definition. From here we can extract some considerations, and we can see that market definition is not an end in itself. It should be analyzed both in the product and geographic dimension, and lies in the demand and supply sustainability principle. This means that it cannot assess the potential forces. This means that it cannot assess the potential competition. This is that we cannot, the market definition cannot foresee the innovation in the market. But this debate is not new, and Lewis Kaplan already claimed that we don't need market definition in our system. Maybe this is a bit revolutionary, but he had suggested that we need other tools, and we should complement it, a market definition to make our system more valid. In any case, like it or not, what he proposes, the debate he originated is very useful to make us understand, to make us help what's the purpose of market definition, and what we try to achieve with this. And this is a debate the digital market is awakening now. But why is the digital market so special in the terms of the digital market, of the market definition? The digital market presents some particularities. It's the multi-sidedness. It's one of them. But as Victoria said, it's not exclusive of the digital market. We can see it in newspaper, in the supermarkets, but also the zero price element is very important because most of the services provided are free of charge. Another element very important are network effects, because in a platform both sides are very interrelated, and the more interrelation, the more value the platform has, and also the digital market is driven by innovation. This means that the rules of the game in this market are played different, and they don't only compete in the same market, they also compete for new ones. The example here is Facebook. They don't only compete for the social network market, we also compete for creating new ones. For example, Facebook recently created a new app to have dates on Facebook. So can we say that Facebook is competed in the social network market or also in the dating app market? Think about it, because I think they are competing in the innovation market. What these are economics of multi-sided nature explain a lot in the digital market, and they explain why this is so special. Why is that? Because the demand curve in multi-sided markets is different to one-sided or traditional market. In the traditional market, the demand curve of a product depends on the price of the product. Let's say the product A depends on the price of A and the price of its substitute. However, in the case of two-sided markets with a side A and B, the demand curve will be as you can see here. This means that the dependency is not directly linked with the price of side B, but with the quantity. This is the demonstration that the network effects influence consumer behavior in the platforms. And you can see that assuming positive indirect network effects, if the price of side A increases, quantity of A decreases, and therefore quantity of A will be decreased, and therefore quantity of A will fall, and so on. And this can explain why the pricing structure of the platform is different, and why you can find prices about marginal cost and even at zero price. The problem is that network effects are very difficult to measure. So if you want to do a research on something, I will suggest to do it on that, how to measure network effects. Good luck on that. There are many authors trying to do some research on the classification on platforms in order to try to define the market on this parameter. They are not very successful because this gives some orientation. The problem is that still it needs to be taken into account the interrelationship between both sides. And if the interrelationship between sides of the platform are very strong, market definition, as we know it, becomes less informative. I'm gonna try to be a bit quick, okay? And so what kind of tools do we have? Our system is based on price-based competition tools. And I think we all know the so-called SNP test. It's based on the measuring the hypothetical interchangeability price, change of price. And imagine that the producer of product A were to introduce a small but significant non-transitory increase in price, SNP. So considering that insignificant increase in price takes the range of 5% to 10% within the SNP test, could enough customers be inclined to switch from product A to B to make the increase of price A made unprofitable? If the answer is yes, A and B are in the same relevant market. If the answer is no, A and B are two separate relevant markets. What's the problem here is that this is a SNP test is not able to capture the interdependencies between both sides of the platform. And also, if one of the sides is a zero price, you cannot measure the change of the price if one side is zero price. So what's the alternative here? You can use this test as an intellectual framework to try to suggest alternative tools. But if you are using price-based tools in an environment where they don't use price-based elements, you really need to find an alternative. So what's the alternative? Non-price-based competition tools. For example, using the intellectual framework that SNP test suggests, you can use the so-called SNQ, and which is the small but significant non-transitory decrease in quality. And in the digital environment, this could be a price evaluation of quality, but also some authors already suggest that this could be transferred in a non-transitory decrease in privacy protection. But this also has some problems, because then you need to be able to measure the reaction of consumers to decrease in privacy protection. Okay, and then I tried to analyze some recent case law and how they analyze market definition and how they fit with the economic literature. Oops, I think the slides are great. Okay. Starting from Wanadu cases, we see that there are two cases of Wanadu. In 2003, the Commission considered that there were two separate markets. First, high-speed internet, and that was different from low-speed internet. So they saw two different markets based on the two different speeds of internet. And 5 years later, the Commission considered that the relevant market of the internet was the same. Why? Because the ADSL was already very expanded. So how can you say that in 2003 the technology is not advanced enough to say that the market is already two separate markets? Here, the Commission defined a too narrow market, and in that way, they couldn't capture the dynamics of the market, and in that way they hamper innovation. The second case I analyzed is Microsoft Skype in 2011, where the Commission already recognized that in innovation-driven markets, not even large market shares, in this case 90% of the 90% of market shares are indicative of market powers. Why? Because the competitive situation can change quickly. Because the position of undertakings can be overturned overnight, because they compete for innovation. This view was confirmed later by the General Court in fiscal system case, where they agree with the Commission that in sectors where there are short innovative cycles, large market shares are not representative of market power. Okay, so there are more cases where we can see that the Commission failed in recognizing that where the Commission failed and they define a too narrow market, and therefore they overlook potential effects of innovation. However, some national competition authorities are taking the lead. For example, the CMA in the Just Eat Hungry House merger, where they were able to to see one single market, even when they appreciated that they were a multi-sided nature. Okay. So why should we try to define a market that is in constant flux? There are already many authors, and not only authors, also the German Competition Authority is taking the lead on here. There are suggesting alternative methods to try to assess competitive forces without the need to define the market. For example, to assess network effects, because this has been proved to be the first indicator of market power. Also, data storage, also in connection with the network effects, as assessment of economic scales. Third, if there are companies competing for innovation, maybe we should also assess the potential to innovate of the companies. For instance, taking parameters like the research and development expenditures relative to revenues, also assessing the patents the companies have, and even a new parameter could be the digital tax. The companies will have to pay with the new reform of the European Union. That could be a new parameter to assess the market power. And as a conclusion, and then I finish, the particularity of the digital markets exhibit the limitation of the market definition as an analytical tool, unable to reflect actual competitive constraint in the market under some circumstances. And most of the times, the digital nature of a business will not affect to its competitive assessment. But in occasions, this nature can alter greatly the competitive analysis. The digital conditions should be at least considered. Existing competition policy principles are sound, including protection of innovation. Market definition is consistent and fits for purpose, but competition policy needs to equip itself with more sophisticated tools, non-price-based, more technological approach to integrate the dynamics of the innovation market in analysis. The review of case law proves the need for further guidance. The tendency is to define a too narrow market, contrary to economic literature. In that way, we may overlook actual market forces powered by innovation. Nonetheless, the market definition market shares paradigm starts to be acknowledged as non-indicative of market power in fast-moving markets. No one-size-fits-all approach, necessary and exhaustive analysis to identify competitive constraints, investigate how businesses work and why they do what they do. Toolbox must be kept outdated. It should be taken a holistic view. And then...
Thank you, Ana.
Sorry.